Hey y'all,
How's it going, everyone?
I'm Jay,
And I'm Chris the Bird Nerd.
and we
We are
are the
the
Bird
Bird
Brains.
Brains. Well,
Yeah.
it was good on my end. Yeah, I'll try.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
I like her.
Um, Welcome back.
Yes, it's been a
You've
crazy
you,
couple weeks.
you've been out of town. I got stabbed in the hand. It's
Yeah,
been
how's that?
crazy.
How's that doing,
It's
man? You
it's
doing
it's
all
doing
right?
great now. You can barely
Oh
see.
yeah, yeah. You can't
It
really
was
see it too
more
much now.
in than it was across. So
Oh,
and the minute it happened, I did like a check. Everything was working. So little
nice,
pain. Be all right.
nice.
Um, so just a quick recap for everybody. I've been really busy. Chris has been even busier. He was at a work conference this past week. We had I had a hurricane come through. Which to
We,
those of you not in the Gulf South, that sounds worse than it was.
yeah,
Like we had schools canceled for a day, and then it was basically just not even a bad storm. What we got, it was just a lot of rain, and
yeah.
um, one of the guys in my in our church dad's club group chat sent out. It was a picture of like a plastic table and chairs with one chair knocked over, and it was like, "We will rebuild." You know,
Well,
so we're used
I'm
to it
glad
down
it.
here.
I was gonna say I'm glad it wasn't as strong or as bad as what they were predicted. So I think that's good. We even had birds shipped to you right there at the beginnings of it. So thankfully they made it to you with no foul, no harm there, and healthy. So
I kind of
well,
blacked that out. I forgot we did. Yeah, Chris.
semi healthy.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. So let's tell the people what we're going to talk about today. So today we don't have a specific topic per se. We are just going to kind of do. We're both getting the end of our breeding seasons. I have
Yep,
about a month left. I'll start pulling nest boxes here in the next few weeks. Chris, you're about the same, I think.
yep, yeah. I've already
Um,
started pulling in my aviary, but inside the shed I still got some breeding going on.
right, and so we thought it would be a good. We did one of these, I think, kind of at the beginning of the breeding season. I can't remember, like as part of an episode, but
Yeah.
we thought we'd just do sort of a recap of the 2024 season, the highs, the lows, the peaks, the pits, and just kind of talk about what we took away from it, maybe a few things we learned or wish we'd figured out sooner or whatever,
Yeah.
and then we'll go from there. But yeah, so that'll be today's episode.
The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. The Bird Brains Podcast with Chris and Jay. Bird Brains, Bird Brains.
I
All
love
right,
it.
before we get into it, I'm going to thank our sponsor, New Zealand. I know I've started to hear from a bunch of people that you're placing orders. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear feedback. You know what you like, what we could do better, what they could do better, and we can pass that on. Um, Use code BirdBrains for 10% off. And I've got to figure out how to do that little jingle like you do. By the way, that jingle's solid. Um, but yeah, can't thank them enough. It's awesome. I've got a big box of Hagen seed uh, that
My
I
birds are
need to
loving it.
do. It's just jet fuel.
Yeah.
It's so good, and I'm gonna start. Do you follow Blue Planet Pets, Zeb Ernest?
No, I haven't heard
So
of him.
he's sponsored by Hagen too. He's a big parrot guy, but you need to.
Okay.
He's really big on TikTok, I think, and he's pretty
Oh,
big on
nice.
Instagram too.
Okay.
Um, but he does a lot of great like little 1-2 minute videos where he's like talking to the camera, and it's like little mini videos that are really good. And I'm gonna start trying to. Zeb, if you're watching this, shout out. He's also separately an awesome dude. Um, but I want to start doing a few of those, so I might start working in some snippets of nutrition and things like little this is
I
your
love
one
that.
minute tip kind of a
I
thing.
love that. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
I'm trying to look for some ways to refresh the Instagram because I think people are getting sick of the same 7 videos on rotation.
I
So,
I think I posted for the first time, was it yesterday, in like a week and a half. I either wasn't in cell service or didn't have any fresh videos or content to post up. But
yeah, and Instagram right now is it's pretty demoralizing. The way the algorithm is right now, it's just really hard to do well on Instagram.
yeah,
So if you're watching this and you don't follow me or you don't follow Chris on Instagram, follow. We need them. Help us
yeah,
out. It
please
costs you
do.
no money. Takes 10 seconds. Follow us.
Yes,
Um,
that'd be much appreciated.
yeah, so I guess we'll start with the hurricane birds, right? So Chris found some masked grass finches for me, which I hate saying that one species is my favorite, but this is such a cop out way to do this, right? But if I had a favorite species, right, it would be
Yep.
them. It's like, um,
They are solid birds. When I don't have any, right? When I got them to my shed to get them ready to ship to you, I found myself just sitting there watching them and smiling. They are they're like goofy looking, but sweet looking at the same time. I can't quite tell, because their shape and their head is just a little bit different than your typical finch, but their calls are awesome. Their songs funny. They're beautiful birds, and their beak coloration is just different from your typical finches. Like overall, I found myself just hanging out in the shed, watching them, smiling, and yeah, I think down the road there'd be a species I'd love to have at some point.
yeah, I'm gonna make that happen for you.
I like that.
Um, yeah, it's hard for me to put my thumb on. So they're not the prettiest bird I have, right? The prettiest
Yeah,
bird I have is either a Gouldian or a Bork or a Weaver or something. They're
yeah.
not the most interesting behavior bird I have. That's probably either the shaft tails, which same genus,
Mm,
or um, I don't know, zebras, even though they're so basic or whatever, they're always doing something.
yeah,
But they are just like they're like the all around bird, right?
yeah,
They are not number one in anything, but they're like top five in everything. They're so
yeah.
cool, and they're pretty rare in the states.
Yeah,
So I was
super
psyched to
hard to
find
come
them.
by, man. Super hard to come by.
Um,
I was really excited that I was able to get these over to you in hopes that maybe you can put them up with the ones you
yeah,
have and get some new bloodlines and hopefully some chicks down the road.
made my month easily. So really appreciate. Shout out to Chris, right? Shout out the actual people on the podcast very often, but just fantastic. I'm really excited about it. And then so same time, and you might not even know this, Chris. So I did a bird swap with somebody up in Pennsylvania, sent them some doves and some shaft tails, and he's that guy who's a listener, and I didn't tell him I was going to put his name on blast, so I won't. But great guy, nothing bad to say. But um, he said, "Look, I'm moving into canaries, shaft tails, bigger birds. I've got this one old red-eared waxbill.
Oh,
Lost his
nice.
mate forever ago, and I used to have red-eareds, and I haven't kept them in a while.
Yeah,
But he's like, I need a home for this bird, and you have waxbills. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Send him down, right? We'll I'm not going to breed him. He's too old or anything, and he's little. He doesn't take up any room in the aviary. I was like, yeah, we'll give him a retirement home. Sure, come on.
nice.
So I'm getting birds from Utah and birds from Pennsylvania, and then all of a sudden, literally, we ship those birds all ship Monday, and then Monday afternoon, my wife texts me. She's like, "Hey, hurricane." I'm like, "What?"
Oh,
And then the news was just and normally, and maybe I'm just crazy, but normally we get like 10 days notice of a hurricane. Like, okay, it's starting to
right.
form.
Yeah.
This one was like, hey, we're getting a hurricane Wednesday. Like, buckle up. Like, what? So the birds ended up taking an extra day to get there, probably related to the hurricane. But they arrived the day like the hurricane hit. So who knows what was going on with the post office. But so I'm just like sweating it,
Yeah.
watching the tracking, and it's like not updating and not updating, and I'm just like crying in my phone, like I can't ever find mass grass finches, and they're not good, but they made it. However, one of them had a broken femur
Yeah.
in the box, and what I think happened was on the sides of the box, covering the air holes is like a mesh, and that bird's nails were really long, and it
Oh, okay.
had a pretty heavy band, and I think its nails got caught in the mesh combined with the band, and it snapped its leg right above the knee. So this is kind of hard to explain. It might sound callous, but that is not as big of a problem for a bird as it is for a human.
Yeah.
So he was perching and everything, just had one leg like sad dangling. So I was like, okay, we got a broken leg. So I looked up a splinting, and this is really advanced stuff. I would say I'll post it, but I'm not even going to post the link. This is something, if you haven't been doing this for 20 years and you haven't, I used to work in an animal hospital. I've got friends that are vets and I don't want to put them on blast either, but I literally consulted with veterinarians while I did this. So this is not like Jay just figuring it out in the backyard, right? So
Yeah.
there was some serious stuff went into this. But so I ended up splinting the leg of this bird, and he or she, I haven't sexed it. They're impossible to sex unless they sing or lay an egg. But he or she is in. I stole my daughter's plastic lizard cage. You know those plastic things with the
Uh-huh.
mesh
Yeah.
top. Stole
Yeah.
my daughter's lizard
I think I've
cage.
got one sitting right
Oh
here.
yeah,
So
right there. Yeah, I stole
there.
my daughter's lizard cage, and she's real unhappy about it. I think I'm gonna put some money in her piggy bank. I'm gonna pay rent on it. So I I hear my dog. She might come through the door in a second, so we might get a little guest appearance.
Oh, awesome.
But so stole her lizard thing, and I made like a perchless cage for this bird to rehab in, and I'm still doing all the normal quarantine protocol. The leg is splinted and then hooked to the side of the bird, and the bird's doing great. The bird's eating, drinking, haven't had any issues. It doesn't seem to really know that it got hurt. It is very healthy and spunky. Every
Nice.
time I have paper towels on the bottom, so every time I change them every day, it bites me, which you might think, oh, that's
Good
annoying. It's
sign.
like, I want that. I want a
Yep.
bird that feels spunky enough to bite me. And it bites hard. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this bird other than a broken leg. So I'm fingers crossed this leg injury heals. And if it does, I will give myself a gold medal. I will be so excited.
So how
But
long
so
are you going to leave the splint on for?
um, at least 3 weeks.
Okay.
So I'm going to check at 3 weeks very slowly and carefully to see if I need to resplint, or if the way the splint is, I can't really see the injury anymore because the thigh on this bird is like 2 centimeters. So I can't really, the splint is in the way of the injury.
Yeah.
So I can't really see it, but if I take the splint off and there's been no progress or anything, I would consider amputation, um, which is done correctly with like a band. So you
Yep.
basically just cut the circulation off. But
Yep.
I'm pretty optimistic. We still had full circulation in the leg. I was able to get it relatively set.
Nice.
So, I'm hoping we heal. But we'll see. The leg isn't necrotic or anything. I've been checking it every day.
That's awesome.
The toes are still moving. So we'll see.
Well, great
But
work,
yes,
Vet Jay.
yeah, yeah. Actually, so one of the vets I said, he said you chose the wrong profession. And it's like, what I didn't want to tell him is, what I did say was, you've never seen my chemistry grades, but also, so there's basically, you got three kinds of vets, right? You got your regular veterinarian that does like dog, cat, sometimes small animal. They don't make any money unless they own the practice. Then you got your large animal that does like your horses, your cows, big stuff like that. They can make some money, but they have to travel and it's harder to find clients. And then the third option is the zoo vet, like the exotic vet, which would have
Yeah.
been my choice. And I considered it when I was younger, but they never make any money. And then the only way to become like the head vet is when the head vet at the zoo dies, because there's only like 40 zoos.
Right.
And why would you retire? It's the most awesome job in the world, and you can be a vet until you're 80. So,
Yep.
shout out Vernon Woods Animal Hospital, Sandy Springs. If you live in Sandy Springs, Georgia, great animal hospital. So
Nice.
I worked there in high school, and learned a lot and had a great time, but, veterinarian, not for me, but I
That
do
was the
love it.
profession that I wanted to go into as a kid. Same
Mhm.
reasoning as you, though. I hate school, and yep, my chemistry science grades, terrible. So.
Yep, too lazy, too dumb, and want to be rich. I'm I'm not, but I want to be.
Yep, I
Um,
settled for the next best thing. I'll just have the animals and be well
right, right.
educated, but then tap into a vet if I need to. So.
I do want to eventually start a zoo. I don't know if I've ever said that out loud on the podcast before, but that is, I've had just enough beer to admit that on the podcast. But um,
We need some land, man.
yeah, and then Chris and I have got this all planned out. He's going to be the bird curator. We've got this whole plan. Don't worry, everybody. It's cool. But so yeah, went through all that, but everybody's good. Everybody's in quarantine. Um, let's that's enough about me for a minute. Let's go you first, Chris. So this breeding season, let's start with this. If you had to give yourself a grade, what
Okay.
would you grade?
I did really well in some species. Other species I did not do well in. I'd probably give myself a solid B, maybe a B plus because some of the species that I have bred this year are a little bit harder. Just to kind of give a quick recap, totally failed the canaries. Uh, I had 7 pairs, got 1 baby. So
Oh,
definitely an F in that area. Zebra finches did great in. I think that's just anybody can do great in the zebra finches. I did okay with the Gouldians. I still have some breeding right now. I've got some chicks in the nest. They were pretty
nice.
slow to start this year. Did really well with my Amadina finches.
Yeah,
Those were big
you
success this
crushed
year.
them.
My Borks, I did really well with. Uh, my parrot finches I did not do good with this year. I did not get any babies from either my red face or my blue face parrot finches, and I've had success last year with the red face. This was my first year with the blue face, so wasn't quite sure what to expect. I'm going to try some different scenarios and setups next year specific to that species to see if that'll help me out there. Did good with societies, have several European pairs of societies, and Jay just sent me some pretty sweet little crested societies in our trade. So I'm excited to add those. I had a really rough start with my star finches. I went through 2 solid clutches of chicks dying in the nest, did some big changes, and now I have 3 solid clutches of stars that are about a week and a half old. In each of those are all getting their pin feathers in, and some of them are already feathered up, probably ready to fledge in the next 2 3 days. So really excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
super excited there. Did really good with button quails. I had a lot of button quail chicks this year, incubated and parent raised. So that
That
was
was going to
cool.
be my question. I need some new hens. I'm starting to.
Do
When we get to my side, I'll talk about it. But that
you?
in our next little go round, that might be a thing.
I got some friends next to me here. I don't know if you guys can see
Ah, can you
those.
pull the camera close? Pull the camera close.
Let's
Let's take a look.
let's lift
If you're
this
just
puppy.
listening, we've got an incubator full of button quail
These
chicks.
are 2 day old button quail chicks. They hatched while I was in Vegas on my work conference, and my beautiful wife decided to step in and take care of them uh, with a smile still on her face. So I appreciate that. So she she killed it. But yeah, I think overall probably a solid B, J, maybe a B plus with some of those harder species that we bred this year. Bred both out in my aviary. Oh, my shaft tails. I did really good with my shaft tails as well. That's probably the other species. I probably cranked out a good solid 20 babies of shaft
Yeah,
tails
that's
throughout this
solid on
year.
shaft tails. Out of how many
Um,
pairs?
3 pairs, and I just kicked out. I came home and checked my birds today. I literally came home today, and I've got 3 chicks from my fawn pair, and then 2 chicks from my Normanfeld pair that came out while I was gone, out in the aviary. Aviary was the big difference there for me. I've bred them in cages, and they'll breed in cages, but you put them in an aviary, and they just go on cruise control. I would similar to my zebra finches. They did really well. So yeah, good B plus for me. How about you this year, Jay? How did you fare breeding wise?
So, int- I don't know. I talk too much, but the so I would have told you through the middle season I would have said A plus. I was really excited, and then in this podcast I think we try to be honest about everything and how it went, and I would say that sort of the middle trimester of my breeding season I had some serious struggles. So in the beginning, I had I had two canary pairs. I think I got seven babies between four clutches, which like that four eggs to a clutch. So the most you could get would be what, 16?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
So I had 7 out of 16, which is pretty good hatch rate for canaries.
Right.
Um, I got early borks, I got early budgies, I got early teals, Gouldians did great on, zebras did great on, spice finches did great on, shaft tails did great on, societies did great on, borks if I didn't already say them,
Mm-hmm.
um, and um, I'm trying to think if there's anybody I'm forgetting that I started the year with. I don't think so. I think that's every. Oh, and doves
Oh
like
yeah.
crazy. I've crushed doves this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
By like too much. In fact, if you need diamond doves, please. I have too many. Please buy diamond doves for me. I beg you. Um, so, and then I had a big problem, and Chris, you and I have talked about this extensively. I had a failure to thrive problem from some of my fledgling Gouldians. So I lost out of I've probably hatched and fledged like 20 Gouldians this year, maybe more, and
Mm-hmm.
I've lost like 11 of them.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and I there seems to be no rhyme or reason um, that I can figure out, and there's no like one pair that all their babies keep dying. I've lost, I'll fledge five from, or I'll hatch five from this clutch, four will fledge, and then two die, and then this one I'll hatch five, four will fledge, or three will fledge, and then one will die. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. The only thing I can think of, and this maybe sounds crazy, but I'm thinking that like I'm supplying lots of egg food, lots of mealworms. Everybody's medicated correctly before and during the season if there was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I think potentially birds that in years past just would not have fledged, they would have just died, fledged,
Yeah.
and then died after fledging, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah.
So at first I was like, man, I'm the king of Gouldians. And then it was like, oh, maybe not. Maybe be
Yeah.
humble.
Yeah.
Um, but in the last few weeks, I've started to see a turnaround. So I've got a bunch of Gouldians on eggs right now, which will be their third and last clutches of the year.
Nice.
Still, all those other species are still doing well. I've got shaft tail babies in the nest right now. I've got spice finch babies that just fledged. Societies in the nest right now. Borks, teals.
Nice.
Um, the doves again, still going crazy. The I've got crested and non-crested zebras that just fledged and have babies again because they're insane. Um, and then the there was something else I was going to say, and I'm totally blanking on it now. There's something I got excited about too. It doesn't matter, but the point is, it's it didn't go as well as I remember what it is, and I got a late season canary.
Oh yeah.
So it's gotten a little cooler here. It's starting to cool off. So we went from like highs in like around 100 in the real feel down to like real feel of like 85-ish,
Yeah.
88-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And just that 10-degree drop was enough for my male canaries to be fertile again.
Yep. Yep.
And
Mine
so
started singing too.
I've got, my spring canaries. Now I'm going to get my fall canaries. So I'm excited about that. And then, and I actually, have you ever had canaries lay in a true nest box?
One time I did, only once. It
Mhm.
was only a single hen. Other than that, I've never even seen them like check out the nest boxes.
So watch my last YouTube video that I posted on like Friday or whenever. She, for whatever reason, and she has a lot of open options. She laid in a nest box.
Wow, nice.
I mean, yeah, I'm not complaining. I don't know why, but it was like, okay, sure,
That's
you can
crazy.
lay wherever you want.
Very
So
cool.
got that. And then I think this has been my best season. Normally, in my mind, I try to have all my birds acquired before breeding season and then breed, which for obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
this year has been, uh, I've done more, and I'll credit you, Chris, and then the podcast for this. Like, I've done more trading
Yeah.
than I ever have. Um, so like I started this year with one pair of Borks. I now have three pairs of Borks. I started this year with three masked grass finches. Now I have six. I started this year with four shaft tails. Now I have six.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so I mean, it's just been that's really really fun. Got some new species, right? Got Amadinas, got red-eared waxbills back. Um, so I mean, that's been really really fun. And sometimes you get in a rut and you kind of forget how fun and exciting this hobby can be. But
Yeah.
those masked grass finches, I was as excited to get those as I was 10 years old getting a bike for
I
Christmas.
I
You
hear.
know?
Well, and my favorite time of year is right now. Your mid to end August to like 1st of October. It's like you said, Jay. The temperatures drop down, right? So now you're low 80s, mid 80s. The birds love it, and I actually get quite a few babies kicked out at this time of year. I have to be careful because our night times they do drop down. So we had like a mini cold front come through this last week, and we had temps down in the 40s at
Whew.
night. So I had my wife throw a heater out there at night while I was gone, just to make sure that my star babies and Gouldian babies are okay. Because your Gouldian parents, after a certain time, they don't sit on the nest at night, and those babies got to stay warm. So, but
Mhm.
it's my favorite time of year. It's cooler weather, and just sit out there on the bench and watch them. The birds seem to love it. They're more active. I don't know. There's just something about it. It brings that. I get like, it's kind of like you get spring fever, but I also get like fall fever as well. And I
Yeah.
wish, I wish we had like 4 months of this kind of days and temperature ranges and light ranges. It's very nice. One of my favorites.
Yeah. And then, like this is when I start to have this conversation in my own head. And then I start to plan for next year. And then one thing I always do, and I'm getting excited about it now, is as soon as breeding season's over, it's time for me to rescape the aviary.
Yes.
So I've got, if you looked at my garage right now, you'd be like, what the heck? I have like a pile of sticks, like 70 sticks that have been sitting in my garage drying out since
uh,
the spring when I trimmed my trees and was like, oh, these are straight. I'll keep these. And my wife was like, what are you doing? I was like, don't worry about it. It's all
yeah.
fine. Um, but so I'm getting excited for that. The only thing that I've had that's been an issue lately, I've had ton of mice issues lately. I've
Okay.
removed 10 mice from the
Nice.
aviary in the last
Nice.
month, but it's stressful because it's like if you find 10, how many are there? Oh my gosh.
Right.
But then
They have
so
this
I've
saying, if you find one, times that by three.
right, so then
So
there were
every time you
30.
find, yep, every time you find one, just times it by three.
So I put a lot more concrete into the aviary, including this morning. So, my dirt section, they were like digging under like multiple feet from the inside out. So I don't know how
Wow.
they were getting in, but they were digging out. So I've been everywhere they dig, I've been putting concrete strips, and I did part of it last year, and then a lot more a few months ago. And I found this morning they found the like 1 inch gap
Yep.
that I had missed, so I had to fill that this morning. And then I also, part of my aviary is a cinder block wall, and then my shed is built onto that. So there's like a plywood, and then between that and the wall, well, a
Yeah.
red ant colony moved into that gap.
Oh, wow.
So they've been coming in the aviary and they find the mealworms and the egg food and they go nuts, right? And then
Yep.
red ants in particular, they're pretty predatory. Also, I've been bitten several times as part of this chaos.
Hmm.
But so I've been trying to like figure out how to kill them, but you got to be really careful. You can't really use like Raid or
Right.
any kind of poison that the birds can get to. So I've been like, so I actually ended up drilling some holes in the wood and like spraying it into the gap and then sealing the gap again. So hopefully I'll have that knocked out. If not, what I'll do as soon as the breeding season's over and I'm not going to disturb everybody like crazy, I'm actually going to peel this little side part of the aviary off and be able to get in there for a minute and then put up
Nice.
a new piece. So
Nice.
some pretty significant carpentry I'm about to do, I guess. But besides that, I mean, it's never going to be like you always have, you know, plans and then all this stuff happens.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it's
It-
never going to be exactly what I wanted, but I'm happy with this year. This was a good year.
Yep. I like it too. And I'd probably say some of my biggest pain points. I had quite a few hawk issues
Oh
this year.
yeah,
And even still just recently, one grabbed one of my chickens and carried it off to our neighbor's house.
and ate it.
Well, thankfully we got to him. It had started, it had a bloody wing. It was starting to eat its wing, but my daughter came out and saw it and scared the hawk off, and it carried the bird over to the neighbor's house. But thankfully he's okay. But my daughter was pretty traumatized. She came in ball, and I was actually feeding the birds. It was in the morning time, but I didn't hear it or anything. I had the doors closed. She like comes storming in. Why are you letting the hawk eat the chickens? I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? I'm
I'm
not.
not.
I'm not. But so hawks have been an issue this year. So trying to think ahead of how I can strategize better to keep the birds safe. We've got a couple hawk and falcon nests just a few blocks away from our house with some pretty successful pairs, and so I think that's always going to be a threat where I'm at locally, unfortunately, right? And you can't do anything with them because they're protected species. So just trying to think out of the box coming into winter and next year of how I can better protect my birds and keep them safe, either from fright, flying throughout the aviary
Mhm.
chaotically, but then also making sure that the hawks can't get to the birds through the wires and things like that. Um,
I've got
I,
some
I,
stuff for you off camera. I had a funny hawk thing happen to me the other day.
oh,
So
really?
this is the second time this has ever happened in 4 years of this aviary. I was cleaning the aviary. I was in it, and all of a sudden, all the birds just had a conniption for
Hmm.
2 seconds. I realized it was a hawk hit the top of the aviary trying to get him while I was in there. But I
Yeah.
was cleaning the aviary, so I had the hose on.
Oh, nice.
So I ran outside, and the hawk like perched in a tree like 20 feet away, and I blasted it with the hose, and it flew off all wet. So
That's
it was
awesome.
fine. I didn't hurt it, but
Right.
it was just
Yeah,
like
I
the
might have to
it
do something
made
like
like
that.
a what
Like,
like
what's
head
going on?
movement and flew away. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that hawk is like, I don't know what that was, but I'm not going back there.
I hope. Yeah, maybe I'll have to do that.
Right.
Sometimes they have like the little knobs you can put on your hose that gets the pressurized stream, that shoot it
Yeah,
farther.
that's what
Might have
I
to
had the
do
little
something like
jet
that. Hmm.
attachment. But yeah, he's like, this hairless ape ran out of the cage and sprayed me with
It's like,
something.
what's going on? That's
Yeah.
awesome. No, but I think close to wrapping up breeding, most of my birds out in my aviary have stopped. The light's starting to get shorter. We are in fall time.
I'm starting to shorten my light too.
Leaves are starting to change. Weather's getting cooler. So I just got some shaft tails that fledged this week, and then I've got two nests of zebra finches. And then once they're fledged, I'm gonna pull all my nests out in the aviary. And then my star finches, my Gouldian finches, they're inside my shed where I still have some control and some lighting control there. But I have started to shorten my time length inside my shed as well. I'm definitely
Same,
doing
yeah.
a hard reset this winter because I used to breed through the winter. Uh, but obviously, one of the issues that I had this year was not being able to breed any of my canaries because I did not do that lighting schedule to reset them. And I would probably dare say my Gouldian finches are in a similar spot with them. it was harder to get them into breeding condition this year. So that's kind of where the next month and a half, that's my plans. Start slowly taking down nest boxes, clean them out, disinfect them, put them up on the shelves until next year. And then, like you, Jay, once I've officially stopped breeding, my inside my shed, it gets pretty dusty and dirty. I mean, we've got
Mhm.
lots of birds in there. The aviary is a little bit easier. You can spray it down. I've got cement on the bottom. It's easier to clean, but inside my shed, it's a little bit harder. So once I'm
Hmm.
officially done,
Same.
I'm going to be gutting the whole thing, pulling all my cages out, pressure washing them, disinfecting them, cleaning my walls, resealing up my shed in certain areas to prepare it for winter time. So I've got a good amount of work coming up this next 1 to 3 months, as I prepare for wintertime and getting the birds prepared for their winter molts and things like that, and just doing a big overhaul, disinfecting the shed, cleaning it, getting it ready. Then they can have a nice resting period, and then come early next year, start bringing them all back into breeding condition. So
Yep, that's exactly. Yeah, I mean, because of your weather, you're going to be a few weeks ahead of me on shutting things down. And we'll do an episode here soon, by the way, on how to get birds out of breeding condition.
yeah,
And we'll also do an episode on how to prepare for winter.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I know you don't keep track like I do, but do you know how many birds you fledged this year? You have any idea?
Yes. So I've kept track on my phone, and while I was
Okay.
out on my trip, I was bored and missing my birds, so I went through and tracked all my babies. So all of my babies that I fledged and kept alive this year, 98, and then I sold an additional about 20 adult birds outside of the babies. So about 100 babies this year. Um, Not including like the button quails and a few others. But yeah, finches, borks, about 100 birds. So
You crushed the Borks this year. I actually in the last week I've seen like three or four different people post on Instagram, and I'm like, and then sure enough, it's like, thanks, bird nerd. I'm like, I thought I recognized that bird. Like that kind of looks
yep.
like one of my birds, you know?
Yep, I just brought some back from Montana. We went to Yellowstone last week and traded some birds with Lori up there. She's awesome. She's got some awesome Gouldian finches, borks, and scarlet-breasted parakeets. So we went up and did a big trade up there and brought back some scarlet-breasted parakeets for me for next year, and a couple borks as well. So getting some new bloodlines for next year. It's gonna be awesome.
How many Borks do you have now?
So I've got 3 breeding pairs, and then I'm going to be keeping 4 babies from those 3 different for next year. So I'll have 5 breeding pairs if all goes well throughout the winter time for next year. But yeah, I've spread and sold like 18 borks this year,
That's
and
awesome.
shipped most of them across the country. So, and I still have 3 that are available. So I've had quite a few people reaching out. So if anyone else wants some, my window for shipping is closing quickly. I probably only have a few weeks left until I can't ship anymore with it getting too cold. So if you guys want some borks, keep reaching out to me. Let me know. Reach out to me on Instagram. That's my best place. So
And we'll be back like we were last winter. Going, is it? I'll be checking
yeah,
the weather out in Utah. Is it warm enough? Is it warm enough?
yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's awesome with the Borks. I wonder if you're gonna have an issue if you keep being this successful and keep shipping Borks. There are not that many Borks overall in the country. I wonder
Right.
how long before you can't find an unrelated Bork
Yeah,
at
I don't
this
know.
rate.
I don't know. I don't close ring band mine, but I do band them. So I would be
You're gonna have to
pretty.
ship them from Europe.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I'd love to. I know there's been a few people in Canada and a couple in like Spain that have reached out.
Mm,
I'd love to do some overseas shipping, but man, that stuff is so expensive and time consuming, and it's just for me,
it's
it's not
almost
worth it for the
impossible.
birds. Exactly, it's not worth it for the birds, and so fortunately, we're stuck to the lower 48 states right now. But
We're
yeah,
working on Hawaii, Aladdin,
yes,
talking to you.
yes,
We're working
absolutely.
on that. But yeah, so overall, I think yeah, I think we're both in the B plus range. Definitely some things we were happy about. Some you had some stars issues. I had some Gouldian issues.
Yeah.
We were kind of workshopping with each other and some of our other people. Shout out like Alex. Talked to Alex a lot
Yes.
about it.
Yeah.
Also, shout out Alex. Some I don't want to blow up his spot, but he's had some great success. Really, really excited and proud of him.
Yep. I
Um,
had a breeder that I just sent Borks to this week. He also just received some birds from Alex that he's super
yeah,
excited about.
I'm Instagram friends with him too. I saw that as well. That's one of the people that I saw. I was like, oh, he's getting birds from Chris.
Yeah.
So, I think he also is he's down in my neck of the woods.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I've met him in person at the bird show down here. I won't say
Oh,
his
cool.
name, but he's gonna get some from me too. But he's friends with like my friend Michael that we've talked about. There,
Hmm.
he's in my circle. So,
Okay. Very cool.
um, yeah, I'm not the only bird guy in Alabama. And he's got some cool big birds. Like he's got like a major Mitchell's and some big
Uh-huh.
macaws too. He's got some cool stuff. So
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He was trying to kind of go back into the smaller birds, and
that's
I
right.
said, "Well, you chose some great birds to start with, so I think he'll be successful for sure." So
Yeah, well, Gouldian's from Alex. I mean, you might as well buy bulletproof birds, right? I mean, I
yeah,
can't say enough about. Yeah,
yeah,
I just got some from him, from you all via you also, and
yeah.
can't say enough about his birds. And he is low key talking about maybe moving closer to me, and
What?
I will be excited. Yeah,
Nice.
he's grown up. He's graduated from
I
school. He's got to be
know.
a big kid now.
Putting on the big boy
And
pants.
if that's the case, then we'll definitely have to get you down here because we'll be able to hang
We'd
out
love
and you'll
we'd
get
love that.
jealous. Um,
Absolutely.
all right, well let's wrap this one up. Real quick, the other big thing that's happened this year, right, is this podcast has grown from kind of a fun
Yeah,
idea that we had back in February to now we're almost at 50 episodes. We're
yeah,
sponsored. We've met so many people getting
yeah,
to do incredible stuff, helping people, getting help. So thank y'all. Thank y'all
yeah.
for being a part of this for
Thank you,
us.
thank you, thank you.
It's
And
unbelievable.
I know many of you. I feel like I've got quite a few new friends. Like I consider like true friends, acquaintances throughout this, and I love that. I think that's my favorite thing. And messaging you guys, seeing your success on with your birds, whether Jay or I had a hand in that or not. Like I think that's huge for me. I love that. That keeps me going every day. I love several of you have reached out saying that you've bought stuff from our new sponsors and have tried out their new seed and things like that. So keep trying out their seed. I know it's my first time using it this last month, and I've loved it. My birds, they really truly enjoy that, and I'm not saying that because they're our sponsors, because I wouldn't keep using it if I didn't like it. And so far, it's been wonderful. And yeah, so I think those have been huge, and things that I hope that we can continue to grow together, Jay and I, and with you guys, and let us know how we can continue that and better, reach out. We are coming into our winter months, so sometimes it's a little harder to find some topics to speak on. So, breeding season slows down, birds go into their quiet period per se, and so if you guys got some other topics that you'd love us to touch on, we'd love to. I know I've had a few reach out, Jay, about genetics of certain species, so that's maybe something that we could bring up down the road in these podcasts, and helping people understand genetics a little bit better, as they can be tricky for quite a few different species. So
Yeah, and no topic is a bad idea, even if we don't cover it
absolutely.
right away. We have literally have a list that we
Yeah.
send back and forth. So if you have a question, either we've already answered it and you message or comment and we'll say, oh, go to episode X, or
Right.
we'll be like, oh, cool. And it'll go on the list. And just because you don't see it right away, we film one or two of these a week. And then, if you add this to the list today, we might not get to it for 2 or 3 months, but
Right.
we are going to get to it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So Jay, how can they reach out to you if they need some more birds or want some more episodes or have an idea for a topic?
I'm the Javiary. That's Jayviary or the underscore Javiary. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Reddit. I'm on Threads, which sucks, and obviously I'm on YouTube. Um, DM me. I try to get back to people as soon as possible. Your best bets are always going to be Facebook Messenger or Instagram, but I try to check the other ones. Reddit is a little bit obnoxious right now, and Threads is just never good. But give me a shout. I'll try to reach out. And if you can find Chris and you can't find me, he'll get you in touch with me or vice versa. Chris, where can
Absolutely.
they find you if they need the best Borks in the United States?
Yeah. Well, first, I liked your rhyme. Reach out. What was it? Give me a shout out if you want to reach out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, reach out to me. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. All of those are the Bird Nerd. Instagram is Bird Nerd 4. Uh, Trying to think. Yeah, I try and touch base with those platforms weekly, daily. Instagram's the best, really the best place to get a hold of me, and then you know, from there, usually we'll do like Messenger or things like that if you're wanting birds and things like that. So, but yeah, please reach out. Love it. Got some extra Borks. If you guys want some, reach out to me quick. Just got a few weeks left to be able to ship. If not, then I'll have to find a place locally or hold on to them till next year. They're beautiful birds. Got some rosies, some fallows, and a lutino still. So love to find some awesome homes for them if we can.
Yeah, give them a shout. We may or may not be back again this week. We're working that scheduling out. We've got a lot going on. If not, we'll definitely be back next week. So
Yeah.
thanks y'all for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you guys.